Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call to order Woodstock's Planning and Zoning Commission monthly business meeting for August 18th, 2022, and I got 7:36 p.m. And I'm going to do a roll call first of commissioners who are here and then any who are on online. So I'll start with Dwight Reinowitz. Do you mind starting us off with the roll call?
Joseph Adelman.
Jeff Gordon.
Jeffrey Marco. David Morris.
And I believe the one we have, Doug Porter, you're on?
I'm on.
And I don't believe we have any other commissioner on here. I'm just looking. Okay. I will note that I did receive some RSVPs of people who cannot attend. So Mark Blackmer, Sid Blodgett, Nancy Frazier, Tim Young, and Joe Pulick all told me they could not attend. So I believe we do have a quorum, nevertheless. Once I seat alternates, which I will do right now. So we need to seat all three alternates. So Dwight Reinowitz and Dean Gould, I'm going to seat you. I know you've already been seated for some of these applications and for the public hearing. And I'll also see Doug Porter. And Doug, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just want to, I have to have this on the record that you feel okay to be seated, having reviewed the, especially the public hearing that we're continuing on Rusty Relic.
Yes, I went into the office yesterday and reviewed everything on the files. And I was involved, attended the public hearing on the last month's meeting.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I just wanted to make certain it's on the record, so we're covered. That takes us to agenda item 1C. Commissioner Marcotte, do you mind starting us off with a Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair's report, my usual thank yous to staff and to commissioners for the work that gets done, just not at our twice a month meetings, but also the work that has to get done in between meetings. And that's always appreciated. Thank you very much. Just also to note, for September, we moved our meeting dates. So we're not going to meet right before Labor Day and right before the Woodstock Fair. We're actually going to meet on September 8th and September 22nd. I just want to remind everybody about that. We had decided that some time ago. So I did notify Town Hall. I'm going to re-notify them. The time is still going to be 7:30 for each meeting. And then we'll deal with meeting packets and that type of stuff to go out. Regarding meeting packets, Ashley Stevens is doing some ZEO work. She comes in on Fridays. I don't know if it's every Friday to do some of the work. But she's now doing any meeting packets we have. She's getting them together on Fridays, which means that if she puts them in the mail at the end of the day on a Friday, people may not get them in time. And that's why this time we had to put them in our box in front of Town Hall for people to pick up. Normally she does it on Wednesday and puts them out in the mail at the end of the day to get them out. But it's just until things get worked out further in the office, that's what's happening. So I just ask people to continue to bear with us, and the packets will be put out into the box at the end of the day on a Friday. So I don't know if anybody had any problem finding their meeting packets. I did check and they were all put there in the box. I know one for you too, Delia, was out there. So
They had two with Joe Adeletta's name on it, not one with mine.
that I didn't see. So did you take one of? So did you actually steal one of Joe Adeletta's meeting packets? Okay. We might have to contact some constables. Do you know any?
No.
Okay. All right. We'll let this pass this time. So I don't know if Joe will grab both of his meeting packets next time. And then, so they misspell my name, but I stopped trying to correct that. So on the meeting packet, but that's fine. Well, I'll actually ask.
We got to straighten it out.
No, I'll ask Ashley to have it set. Another is that we've been working through what to do about home occupations with regulations. One of the things that's come up is about where we stand with the home occupation permit application. We don't tend as a commission to vote on those. Those are administrative type things, but they do. Different things like that do get updated at town hall, even with our input. We've done that before. So one of the things we'll do is we'll have emailed out the current application that's used so you can see it. If there's anything you want to comment upon, any additions you think should be in there, anything that should be updated, just send in, to me, what you think. And what we'll do then is before our planning meeting on September 8th, we can assemble all that together and see what input there is, because the application has information on. The regulations are a different thing. So it is important to make certain that we're kind of dovetailing and have some things. So even though we don't vote on that application, I think it's good to see it and what we're actually asking people on the application and what then is being required in the regulations. We've done that some years before when we were looking at zoning permits and special permits, what was actually on the form applications versus what's in the regulations. So, and I did take notes over the years for what, Delia, you've made some comments about the application. Tina did, and Ashley did. So I'll put those into a packet. So we'll try to get that out if I can tomorrow or the weekend. Any citizens' comments on any item not on the agenda? Okay. That takes us to our meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes of July 21st, monthly business meeting, and August 4th, a special meeting, even though all of our meetings are special. What does the commission wish to do?
Move approve minutes from those meetings.
So that was David Morse, and that was you, Joy.
Yes, sir.
So motion by David Morse, seconded by Dwight Reinowitz to approve as presented the July 21st and August 4th meeting minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta? Let's see who's here. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Mark that down. Jeff Marcotte.
Abstain.
David Morse.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. And I just want to note for the record that this is another set of meeting minutes that Amy has been approved unanimously. Your record is unbroken. I do not know what the actual record in town is, but when we, well, we are, but at some point we're going to have to actually draw a line in the sand. I don't know when that's going to be, but we're not going to tell you.
Maybe when the kids go back to school, I'll have some free time.
Okay. So, but at some point we'll have to make an announcement, your unbroken string of approved meeting minutes. So maybe we'll have a celebration at the Grange. The next is I have the right one here. Nope. The next is a continuation of the public hearing. Technically, this public hearing was already opened and then we tabled it. So technically, if I could get a motion to untable agenda item 5A, which is SP 6410625M, Jason and Jamie both Soleil 290 Route 169, Rusty Relic, add retail space.
Yeah, that's not on my agenda.
Yeah, the amended agenda should have been out. I emailed it out, so it's not. All right. Yes, we had to amend the agenda, but the copy should have gone out, but they didn't. All right. It did. That's fine. We'll go by this one then if you want. Yes, we had to make some changes in it, so that's why. Unless there's an objection, it's the same agenda items, but we had to actually correct one of them because it was the way it was listed was wrong. So, yeah, so so unless there's an objection, I apologize. It was submitted and I did send it out to everybody because of the revision, but we weren't able to get any copies of it that we printed from town hall. So I'll just go through these and I'll just say that it's agenda item 7 on the old agenda, but the revised agenda listed as agenda 5. But however we want to list it in the meeting minutes. It's the public hearing for Rusty Relic. I just need a motion to untable.
So. Second.
So motion by Joe Adaletta, seconded by Dwight Reinowitz to untable the public hearing on Rusty Relic. Any discussion? Hearing none. Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
And Dwight Reinowitz. That's so taken. So we now are in public hearing on this matter. Again, there's a couple things I just need to note for the record, if you don't mind. Here it is. We do have some new documents that we have received, including one that I'll state why we don't have a copy of it yet. But just for the record, we do have a memo from Delia, July 28th. I believe that did not make the meeting packet. We have a letter from Jean and Jacques McClellan. Actually, it's from Jean McClellan dated August 11th. Delia, you provided us a document that says follow-up review of original special permit review. And it lists conditions of approval 1 through 9 and status of that. And we have received this afternoon a letter from Gail Usher as chair of the Historic District Commission with an attachment that was not able to be copied in time for tonight's meeting, but copies will get out to everybody for that. And also we did receive a email. Where is it here? I forget the date of it. Do you remember the date of that, Delia? For the extension request? We did receive a request from the applicants to request an extension of the public hearing until our next monthly business meeting. And I'm just trying to find the date of that.
That was August 10th.
There it is,
Jeff.
August 10th. Thank you. So we did receive that as well. So those are the new documents for the public hearing. The other is just to remind people of the timeline. So right now, as of today, if this public hearing needs to get extended, technically we have 35 base days from the day we open the public hearing to when we're supposed to close it. That 35 days ends August 25th. To extend to the September 22nd would mean an additional 28 days would have to be used, if I did the math correct, which leaves 37 other days to be used if the applicant so requests. Per state law, an applicant can request up to 65 days additional time to be used either for extending the public hearing or extending our post-public hearing deliberation. However, the total of any amount of extra days, no matter what is done, can't exceed 65. I believe that comes out to October, is that October 29th? Is the very last, I think. Yeah, but I think it's on, I think that's on here, what was listed. So I believe this cannot be in any way gone past. Let me see, 65 days. So it might be towards the end of October, might be the very end of it by state statute as far as a deadline to meet. So we just need to be mindful of that, and we'll just need to let the applicant know. With regards to any additional time that's used, we can approve, but unfortunately, it just means there's less time to extend if it's needed. We hope we don't reach that point, but we just have to be very mindful of it. So, and then we can go accordingly. Even though we're gonna have to take a vote on accepting the extension, I did want to make certain that we offer in case there's anything further the commission feels that might be needed to be done on this with regards to any further direction that we need to give the applicant, or anything else you feel, Delia, we need to note on the record that the applicant needs to be informed about. We're right now waiting for a revised plan for parking.
Yeah.
And then that is going to be going to design professionals for review. Even though the jurisdiction, and we've stated this before at the meetings, the jurisdiction for the use of the barn inside the barn is planning and zonings. Things that are outside the barn that falls within the Historic District Commission jurisdiction has to be attended to, even though that stuff may also get into our jurisdiction depending upon the item. So there would be an issue that if Historic District Commission has to review something and approve something in order for us to do something, we have to be mindful of that part as well. So that we're just going to have to see where that falls out and where things are in that regard. Doug, was there something you wanted to bring up? I don't want to put you on the spot, but this would be an opportunity to bring anything else up.
Sure. I don't want to, I want to make sure the applicant understands any potential additional information that we might request. And one of the concerns I have is parking. I think when their revised application may actually look for almost 10,000 square feet of retail space in the final proposal, I would expect that will make an impact on parking and traffic. Our regulations require or allow us to request a traffic report. I think if they're looking at a 10,000 square foot retail space there, I think they should be prepared to have us a traffic report when they come back to our meeting in September.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, I have several comments, Jeff. So that's the first one. The second one is also under other certifications, our regulation requires approvals from local agencies having jurisdiction. And I know you just made the comment about the historic district. If they don't have the addition onto the barn, then they may not need historic commission's approval, because it's the space within the barn would necessarily come under their jurisdiction. But again, if they're looking at a 10,000 square foot building, which I would expect will require a larger parking lot than what they have there, then I think that would come under the Historic Commission's purview. And I think it's important for the applicant to understand that they need to have that approval from the Historic District. If they do have jurisdiction, they have to present that to us, because it's part of our requirements and our regulations that other local agencies that have jurisdiction provide us with their approvals before we can make a decision.
Thank
And
you,
then-
Doug.
And then
You have
finally,
something else? Yep.
yes, Jeff, there has been some questions about what is actually the space that's being used at the property, whether our initial approval was just for the 2,000 square feet of retail space on the first floor, and the applicant has suggested that he's received approvals from the building official and the fire marshal to occupy the second story of the building as retail. Under our regulations, L, special permits decision, D, periodic reports. Our commission may request from the applicant's engineer a report on the status and progress of the work required under our special permit. Since there have been some questions about what actually has been done and not done underneath the permit, I think it would be helpful if the applicant's engineer provide us with a status report on their existing special permit and tell us exactly how that site is being used and the work that was required under the original permit, what has been done and what needs to be done.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
So anything else from commissioners? All this stuff you'll relay to the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Doug, do you have those things all written down? I couldn't write my notes fast enough. Can you email your list to me?
I will send that along to you, Delia.
Thanks.
Anything from anybody else? Yes, Jeff Marcotte?
Weekdays, did you say you had in total?
Well, right now, I believe if all the extensions are granted, I think that comes out to, is that October 29th?
Additional 65 days.
Right, and they're gonna use, if we approve this extension request, they're gonna use 28 days. That leaves them 37. So I'm just taking a look here to see if that is, so we have 65 days to deliberate, so that would be October 29th, so it would be beyond October 29th. We would have 65, well, I don't know when the public hearing will end. That's the issue. So right now, if we put into account, I'm just trying to think about it on the calendar, they would have 37 additional days to extend the hearing. Then there's 65 days within which for us to decide after the hearing. So if they use all the rest of their time to extend the hearing, that takes us to October 29th, and then you tack 65 days on.
Which is essentially ended January.
I don't know if they're gonna need that extra time or not. We just have to, we're keeping track of the timeline like we do for everything. So right now, the latest this public hearing could go is our meeting on October 20th. That's our October monthly business meeting. That will be the, in a sense, kind of the last day unless we decided to make a special meeting on October 27th. But it could, correct. But as far as the end of, towards the end of October is basically the last we can extend a public hearing to.
Yeah, so
Go ahead. I'm just saying it's real important to keep track of all this time. I think you're bringing it up.
Yep.
because we don't wanna-
It doesn't work that way. It's only for subdivisions,
Only subdivisions or.
not special permits.
If you-
For special permits, what would happen then is if time is run out and we don't have what is required and needed, we would then have to decide about either the applicant withdraws or we have to deny.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we are keeping track of it all, so and just making certain the applicant knows. Because there's a lot of moving parts, and as Doug mentioned, there are some things to be looking into. You know, the other is when we wait for other agencies, I think, is it, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, I think all municipal agencies have to have their meeting minutes in within 7 business days. I mean, calendar days, right? By state statute. So we just have to be mindful. We do look for meeting minutes, but all agencies that have anything to do, we look for those. They have to be filed per state law within a certain amount. I know you take care of that and you do it, you know, but right. But I think you can't go more than 7. You're not supposed to go more than 7 calendar days per state law, I believe. So, you know, we just have any other agencies involved. We just got to make certain that we're getting stuff from, because unlike, well, this is not a subdivision, but
I don't do minutes for historic.
yeah, they handle their own, and any other agency we have to deal, just in general, we do look for their meeting minutes or any correspondence. So we just have to, because we have to enter that in the record if it's important for us to see. So, but it's all stuff we have to keep track of. So.
Mr. Chairman,
But I'm gonna bring it up.
motion from the floor to extend.
Going to, but I just also want to make certain that as far as the items that Doug raised, does anyone have any other comments? Is there any objection? I don't think we need to take a motion on that.
I need to know whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Is there anyone who's objecting to the items that Doug's raised as far as for what he is asking to see that we get from the applicant and the applicant's engineer representative?
No, I think it's a lot of good points. Seem like
Okay.
very valid points.
And I'm assuming you agree, right, Doug?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So,
Jeff,
yes.
You mentioned earlier that some of the documents that have been received since the last meeting was something from the Historic District Commission.
we received something from the chair of the historic district that came in this afternoon. And there was,
Okay.
right, there's no time then to have that copied by town staff, and Ashley doesn't work on non-Fridays. So that's something that what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to get that out we'll get that out to commissioners. And also make certain that it's in the meeting packet. So I have a list of it, so we'll make certain that we get that out, so. So it sounds like, Delia, we're all in agreement to move forward with that.
Okay,
So that then takes us, Dwight, to accepting the request to extend the public hearing to September 22nd, which would be 7:45 PM. So motion by Dwight Reinowitz, seconded by David Morse to accept the extension request for the Rusty Relic public hearing and extend it to September 22nd at 7:45 PM. Any discussion? Yes, Joe.
Does that preclude any public comments tonight? If there are members of the public who want to make a comment?
Not necessarily. The applicants aren't here, but we don't have to, we haven't yet tabled this, so it wouldn't, no. Because I'm gonna actually, after this, extending it, so we have it on the record, we're doing it, gonna ask if there's anything further, on it, because technically it's still the public hearing until we table it again. Yep. So, gonna go through the roll call. Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Jeff Marcotte. David Morse. Doug Porter.
Aye.
And Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
That so passes. So this is extended. We've accepted the extension request, and you'll let them know, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
So, then before we decide to table the public hearing, is there anything further from commissioners? I don't have anything that I'm gonna wait until the next public hearing. Is there anything from members of the public? The applicants are not here. Okay, so that would mean then that we would we need a motion to table the public hearing, which would be to September 22nd at 7:45. So motion by David Moore, seconded by Dwight Reinowitz to table the public hearing for Rusty Relic to September 22nd at 7:45 PM. Any discussion? I'll go through the roll. Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould.
Aye.
Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse.
Aye.
Doug Porter.
Aye.
And Dwight Reinowitz. That so passes. The public hearing is so tabled. You'll let them know that also, right?
yes.
All the stuff you get to do. Wow. Okay. So that is noted. The next then takes us up to, depending on which agenda we're looking at, that would take us up to agenda item 6A, or which is still 6A on the new agenda. So we will take that up. This is old business 654-2206 BLH Properties, 170 Lion Hill Road, a 3-lot subdivision. There's a few things I got to put into the record. This one. We have some new documents. We have revised plans that on sheets 3, 3A, 3B, and 4 are listed as August 4th. We have an assessor's signature on the application. We have revised E&S control bond of 8/8/22, although I'll make a comment later about that. We have design professional reports of August 8th, and Delia, was there something that came in today?
Yes, and unfortunately, I copied it and I left it on the copy at work. But I have the image, I can project it onto the screen.
So what we'll do is, we will show it on the screen, which we should be able to share for everybody on. We will then work on getting copies, not blaming design professionals, but when we get things the same day of the meeting, we're not always able to pivot and copy them. And I don't think you've seen this yet. We'll get you a copy as well.
It was emailed to Mr. Archer.
No, that one was not.
I emailed it to, I did email it to you, but I apologize if you didn't get
I
it.
got the first, there was 2 emails today. I got the first one, and I know we had talked on the phone about the one with the blue line and all that, but that one never came through.
Well, we'll work on getting a copy. We'll have it up on the screen. Otherwise, I don't think we would need to delay this to the next meeting just to be able to get copies out unless you want to. I don't, but if you're willing to see it on the screen with us as well, we can work through it.
Can't read it, but that's fine. We can go. through
Well,
it.
we can try to get it up
That's okay.
in big
I don't
stuff.
think Jeremy and I went over the-
All right. So, And then, okay.
Any earth-shattering stuff here.
And then we have an email from John Navarro in his capacity of the Highway Department Foreman from August 9th. I just want to note the timeline here. The first 65 days ends in 2 days. So if for any reason this were needing to be tabled, I'm not saying there is, but if there were, we would have to get an extension request just to let people know with that. So, and then I'm going to reserve the rest of the stuff because I have some follow-up questions to go through for the record, but I'll do that after. So is there anything you would like to go through with us with regards to any of the revisions on the plans or anything? Or,
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, Doug?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that I have a potential conflict on this. I'd like to disclose that I have a professional relationship with Archer Surveying. They do work for me, as many of the local surveyors do. I just want to make sure it's out in the public. If anyone has any problems with that, I can recuse myself, but I want to make sure everyone knows that I have done and continue to do business with Mr. Archer and other surveying companies in the area.
Thank you, Doug. Do you feel you need to recuse? Otherwise, it doesn't sound like you have a formal conflict.
I don't think so, but I just want to make
Okay.
sure if anyone else thinks that that creates a conflict, then that's fine.
Is there any objection? Otherwise, as chair, I don't see this a formal direct conflict that would require recusal. Okay, thank you, Doug. Please, and if you don't mind, just state your name for the record. I'm sorry. We know who you are, but we just have to have it recorded.
Paul Archer with Archer Surveying, PWC Associates, representing BO properties. I don't think, nothing on the plans there were earth-shattering changes like this. I think the biggest thing that was left to us was the driveway, whether or not the first driveway coming out the line of sight basically to the north was acceptable, equal. And as per your request there, I don't know if any of you went out there, but we did go out there. We did stake out the center line of the driveway. I met Mr. Navarro out there. We actually pulled the tape. And I actually, if anybody went out there and saw it, I painted the 300-foot mark right in the middle of the road where everybody could see. So with Mr. Navarro out there, we also went out there with Mr. Gabriel, he was out there also with us. And as per the email that you have here, Mr. Navarro didn't have any issues with, you know, where we put the driveway and the line of sites that were there. Now, I also know that you went ahead and sent the plans on to design professionals, which was, we got the letter back on August 8th, okay? And one of the, mostly all the, it was interesting because mostly all the comments dealt with wetlands issues, okay? So I had our engineer, Dave Smith, contact her and go over everything. And then Billy also has the response that our engineer, Mr. Smith, didn't call her. Basically, she was what the stage the project was. She was kind of surprised that the project was already passed through the wetlands and all that stuff. Which then, once we talked over everything, fine with everything that we had, due to the fact that dealing with weapons issues. Then we had to turn around and call her and ask her basically what one of the and I believe that email finally, I don't know if we got an email from her today. And basically, I don't know, did everybody get her email?
No, that's why we're showing it on the screen right now.
There's another one, that one. So it said Delia.
Yep, I have to pull it up.
Let's just pull it up first and then we can go according. So Delia, how many emails are there from her today?
2.
So we just need to make certain that we, if we can just get copies out to commissioners at some point so we can see them. At least commissioners can have them.
Once you do that, I can read it to everybody.
Why don't we just wait till it's up on the screen so we, if you know, just don't mind, because we also want to make certain people on the computer can see it too online. So. What? Oh.
I don't know how to zoom in on, but I'm in the share mode.
That's fine. Is this the email you wanted to discuss?
Yes.
Please,
It
Ms.
says,
Archer.
and it came in today at 2:50. Yeah, Delia, I did not have time to schedule a site visit. The minimum intersection site distance for a 20-mile-an-hour passenger car is 225 feet. For a 25-mile-an-hour, it's 280 feet. According to the 2013 Connecticut Highway Design Manual, the line depicted on the plan appears to be approximately 220 feet long, but it is labeled 300 feet long. The engineer should resolve the discrepancy to ensure trees are cleared and intended to be intended by the site. So basically what she's saying is, when we draw a plan, is we put the area where we're taking the sight lines and we draw 2 arrows out. We don't make the arrows, if you can see 1,000 feet, we don't draw the arrow 1,000 feet. So when we draw the arrow in the intended direction, we put the intended direction and we put the actual distance on the actual 200 feet. I've gone ahead and I can show everybody here, I've modified that on the plan to show that it's 300 feet, that we have perfect sight line. I also have, I know we have pictures that I know Delia had before that shows the sight line and it shows that the vegetation, that there is no vegetation or no trees in the area that needs to be cleared in order to obtain the sight line. Okay, so Delia, do you want me to show you the map that we modified?
Well, is there a new set of plans that we have not seen?
No, because we just got this comment today at 3 o'clock. Okay, and I can, if I put mine to come up, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, we're gonna also have to have a way of,
It is on sheet 3A of
so
4.
we're gonna need to show it up on there
That's
because
fine.
we have to have it shown on the,
Nope, 3A of 4.
Can't read what it is, so.
It's right there.
Okay.
Okay, but see now, can you zoom in a little bit?
yeah, why don't we use on that? So,
That's fine. So what she is saying, if I can come up here,
yes,
is we show a sight line that says the sight line is 300 feet with an arrow here, okay? Now, what she is stating is that she measures from here to here is only 225 feet. We know that. But our actual sight line is from here past the pole, so we're out here. You know what I'm saying? So when we depict these sight lines on the thing, we don't scale it 300 feet out. We just put a line in that direction and put it just like there's no way we could ever do a line in this direction and put 500 feet back there. So what I'm showing you is, you can see it here, is that we went
we
ahead.
just have to show it up, if you don't mind, on the screen.
Can
because We
walk
have to have
around the
everybody.
commission members.
Okay.
I'll just show it up on the
It's real
screen.
simple. So here's the line here. All we did is, this is the same line as up there. We extended it. So the actual arrow now is 300 feet to the center line of the road. To the, not the center line, but the lane that's there, that's passing. So
And so for the people online, can you describe where your finger is so that
the
they can?
finger is past pole number SNET 528, past across Culver. Here. But what's happening here is And from here, they extend well, there's a sign on the side of that.
So my question, Mr. Archer,
This actual line now was.
Like the line doesn't go out as far as
Just like
it's
he's
saying.
somewhere he take this.
Right.
is that what he's going to be saying?
Really, we just found out
You know what
about
I'm
this
saying?
afternoon that he can make the change. It's
I'm
just,
gonna make that clear. So let me just,
We're not- there would be ways-
so Mr. Archer,
Right.
we just need to make certain everybody can hear. So, because we also have Commissioner online. What you're showing us on that drawing you have is not on the current plans that we have. I know what things have been received today, but what you're showing there is not on the sheet yet.
That is correct, because we received her
Okay.
comment to put it on there at 3 o'clock today.
Oh, no, I understand. And we're trying to do what we can do. So I just want to make certain it's clear. So, because I'll have some comments about where we stand in, and for that, and, okay. But please go ahead, Mr. Archer. If there's anything further.
And then, so, no, and then I believe that everybody, I know we submitted these pictures here so that everybody can see the actual, what the sightline looks like.
I can show that picture, but I have to leave the program and go find the file and open it. And just take a few minutes. The pictures that you gave me or the picture that Jeff gave me?
It's a picture that Jackie saw.
There was a series of pictures that I did.
Is it that one?
That's looking south, that people can see that there's no issue there with the sightline going the other way.
That's the right one?
Nope.
Just for my clarification, you marked that off with like a snowplow reflector?
No,
No, that wasn't that one.
it was not that one. We actually went out there, put a stake in, an actual wooden stake. Where we were at,
I saw that one.
as proposed. And then we actually, when we were out there, we used it out, just so, we use a transit to shoot it for us when we do it. We actually had a 300-foot tape stretched right out and down that way, with him standing right there, seeing where it's going. Like I said, if you went out there, you could actually see that.
Is this the right one?
That's close to it, yes.
And how many feet are you saying that is?
We're plus 300 feet.
Okay, I have some questions about that, however, but I'll let you finish your discussion.
Not much, I'm good then. I think-
So I do have some questions. So can you show up that plan again that shows, I guess,
Do
sheet
you want to see
3A?
the picture or the plan?
Not the picture, but the plan, actually. So, and I don't know, so I'll just try to describe it because I know we have people on. So this, the line that you're saying from this driveway here, you're saying it's 300 feet. Where does this line end here?
You go
Out here?
Yeah, but it can't go across the road. You gotta stay in your side of the road. You know,
So
so
where, so a car is coming this way.
that's correct.
The curve says before you take the curve to head up on the racetrack that is Lion Hill Road going straight, is 15 miles per hour. But when you come out from the curve, it's still not 15. The road turns into 30. Is my understanding, miles per hour. And then just keeps on going at 30.
I don't believe it's 30 miles an hour because everybody we talked to, it was 25, but it's greater than 15.
Because the question is, what is the mile per hour then? My understanding is I thought it was 30, wasn't there?
Everybody that we have talked to is the road posted. It is not.
So the question is, which mile per hour then does it default to?
In Connecticut, I think the guidelines are some posted as 25 to 35.
Which one? So even if it's 25 and you're coming around the corner on this road, this way, you're going to be on this side. You're not going to hopefully be on this side of the road. You're going to be right over here coming around the corner. So the sight line from here seeing a car as it comes around the corner before going straight, how many feet is that? What is
Over
that?
300 feet. As to what, when we do sightline demonstrations, okay, we do them very often for the state of Connecticut, and we've gone over this in the last time, okay? The sightline demonstration is, we actually set an EDM, a total station up at 40 inches high. That's the sightline, 15 feet, 10 feet off the edge of pavement, okay? And we walk down, and you must see something at 40 inches high. So as soon as we can hit a reflector that reads us back, gives us our distance.
So then my understanding, so I can understand it is, you're a car coming along this road, you're obeying the speed limit, which is a big if, but even if you are, and then you're gonna start accelerating towards 25. Once you start coming around this bend to be seen, you're saying the line. to be
Right now,
seen
right now, your
300 feet.
finger is pointing in the wetlands, in
Right,
the
right,
ditch.
but as far as over here, you're saying here from the sight line, to seeing a car coming around to
yeah.
be seen is 300?
300 plus feet, absolutely correct. 'Cause if you
Okay,
look
I
at-
just want to make certain, because that way it's on the record, so I just want to make certain. So that is, what it is. Delia?
Yes, what you had mentioned, what you thought the standard was, for the record, could you just state what your background is so that you can state that kind of qualifying statement?
I'm the director of public works for the town of Brooklyn.
Okay,
And you were also
I was
in Woodstock.
former director of the town of Woodstock.
you said that if it's not posted, it's 25 to what?
25 to 35.
I just want to make certain I'm on the same. So basically then, if someone's going 25, you're saying it's 300 feet, and basically what design professional says is that meets what they say has to be, that's more than what
That
is
correct.
needed for 25.
That's it. And
Okay.
even, again, but that's according to your highway foreman. He was acceptable to what he saw out there as to a satisfactory line of sight for where the location is coming.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the sight line then. So, but thank you. That helped explain things for me. Thank you. Joe?
Updated copy of this on file, that whatever we're talking about verbally.
I believe you have a plan based upon what came in today that clarified that sight line. So if we approve this, that will be revision that will show on the mylars,
Yes.
So that'll be somewhere in the office, the revised plan.
on the mylars.
That would become a Mylar. If you guys choose to approve this, then the next step is we have to put Mylar on file at the town hall. That revision would be on the Mylar.
Okay, yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yep, which is a good point. And we stated it's on the record as well. And you've shown us a revision anyway you made to address what came in today. So that's very helpful. Yes, Delia,
I just wanted to go back to Suzanne Choate's email,
please.
and he talks about needing to clear the trees. Have you determined if there are any trees that need to be cleared? That's in her.
My answer to that is, I know, and I'll just walk around and show everybody. You can, and I know we've given this, here's the actual picture that you can see. Here is the line here. Here is our driveway here. There is no trees to be.
I just want to make certain, Doug, we're trying to share the picture on the screen.
That's the right picture.
It's not, it's close. It's not this one here, because this one actually shows that I was standing here where the actual, the stake is, where as you can see, that's your line of sight.
Doug, are you able to see the picture on the screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So basically, the picture you're showing us is the picture of what the sight line would look like,
It's not coming.
not on the
Right now.
map, but kind of real life.
That is real life, right? Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
So here, you can see.
Picture will be labeled next time. So I find them in my mess files.
So, yeah, the pictures I submitted.
Even if you don't know which one, sometimes it's low. It's hard to find the right one.
You can see the other poles. Which is that.
Okay,
So no, didn't mention trees, but just vegetation.
One of her emails did,
Oh, an earlier
but
one.
she hasn't been to the site, so she may not have known that there were no trees in that location.
But vegetation would be anything, any brush. Would be clear.
okay. Did you have anything else? Otherwise, all right. I just had a couple of things I want to note. One is it had been mentioned about the property owner having a signature on the impact statement and consent form, and it looks like that's been done. So we'll note that for the record. And I noted that on sheet 3, that the bypass lanes are marked as far as meeting the 40-foot long and the width. So thank you. And that's actually on sheets 3A and 3B also. And the signature block is now put on sheet 4, so that covers us as well. Thank you. I know it had been raised by Sid Blodgett at the last meeting about what are you talking about? Assessor signature?
This is from the application.
Yeah, I'll see if it's in here. This is the actual
Yeah.
office file. We'll check that. Sid Blodgett had mentioned about anything that the inland wetlands had wanted to be shown is actually on the plans.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's what I thought. Yep, so it's there. And then I had a question. There's still a math error in the ENS control bond, which is easy to fix. So when the ENS control bond is actually filed and the paperwork should be fixed, the overall contingency percentage has been fixed. So thank you for that. But also on lot 3B silt fence, 150 linear feet at 3, it's listed as equal 400, but it actually should list 450. That's just a simple thing. We just need to show it correct because all the math adds up. We just want to make certain that it actually, no one later creates any question about what the actual dollar amount is. If that just tidies it up if you don't mind. And I guess we're supposed to ask you, Delia, if there's anything you have of concern relative to ENS control stuff? Or design
Suzanne did.
professional was fine with that?
I can bring up her other email.
Because technically, we're just supposed to ask if staff is okay with the ENS control plan. And if our engineer is okay with it, that just checks the box off. I didn't see the email from today to see if she was okay with it. We just want to make certain that it is, so that way everything is.
Controls of the total of all the slopes.
So
Number
is
3,
she actually okay with the erosion and sediment control plan? She just wants to have what?
additional controls.
Okay. Stands, please place additional erosion control. Did she say what she needs, or is it
At the
more?
toe of the slopes.
Okay.
And
Well,
then number 5 is another change.
Indicate all pipe invert elevations and spot elevation. Is that stuff that can just be dealt with if we approve this? That can just be dealt with as far as,
Should go on the plans, and then providing it's correct, then it would be, could be filed.
if we're okay with having that on the plans. So are those any issues from your perspective?
This is the first.
Oh, I know.
I've seen it, so-
And we're trying to go through it as best as we can.
I couldn't read it from back there. What does she want now?
So this number 3,
Number 3, silt fence should be divided between the worksite driveway outlets. We agree. I understand that the wetlands application has been approved. We don't have a problem adding more silt fence, and we would work with your wetlands officer at the time to get that done and make sure she's happy with what it is. And what would be,
I guess number 5.
that's the one that Dave Smith talked to her about that, because we went over all the pipe sizes that we're using is the same size pipe that's under the road. So he was happy with everything that Dave had, and I know you got a copy of Dave's email that he sent to her.
Yes.
Yes, which went over all that, which showed that all type inverse elevation, spot elevation.
So it just sounds like those are things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Delia, from a process point of view,
There's a few details that should be added to the plans.
but that could be if we approve this with the condition that design professionals has some things they want on the plans, it just needs to be put on the plans. We don't have to wait for that to be put on the plans and bring this back next month, do we? That's more
No, but you
technical
might
stuff.
wanna, after you add them, because I'm not an engineer and I want to make sure whatever was added was done correctly, they can be sent back to
But,
Cho to make sure that stuff
but
is.
don't you, I also want to think that number 5 is going to be more important, not on these plans, but on the actual design plans when they go to get built. When we're going to submit to you guys, that's when you're going to see the spot elevations and all
Well, the
that stuff.
commission doesn't look at that, so.
I know, but that's.
Staff does.
Yeah, staff does, but that's usually when, that's when you put the inverse on, is when the actual site plan is submitted and approved.
I'm just asking from a process point of view that if these are certain technical things that design professionals is asking for, from a process point of view, we don't have to wait until next month to see new plans with this. If we were to say approve with the condition that whatever design professionals is looking to have put on the plans needs to be on the plans, then that gets verified when the bylaws get submitted, that stuff's on the plans. If it isn't, can't be signed.
Right, and I suggest having final paper plans reviewed before you print Mylar, because I know Mylar is more expensive than paper.
Yes.
Absolutely correct. More than happy.
I'm just trying to think from a process point of view, what are our options? Just because we received something tonight and trying to facilitate what we can, but also want to make certain we're crossing the Ts and dotting the Is for what we need to do. Joe, and then Doug, did you have your hand up?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, Joe?
No, I just want to follow up with your comment on the process, and given the fact that we don't have a full-time CEO working for the office, and it may be a cause of delays of work getting approved. I think we as a commission have tried to be a little bit more formal in making sure drawings and documents that we approve are the ones that are the final documents. What we're looking at tonight is kind of approving with conditions to change some drawings. And I'm okay with that for tonight under these conditions that we don't have the CEO on staff to be able to make it expedited as opposed to making this kind of a normal thing.
Right.
Something we received tonight as a change to a drawing is just applied as a condition.
Let me ask Delia, since you've been reviewing this, if stuff comes in, are you going to be looking at the plans?
No, for the zoning permit, that's
Okay,
why.
I didn't think
details
so.
Should be on these plans to get filed, and then when they go to build a house, because it might be the owner now, but you might, I don't know if you're gonna sell the lot to someone else, I don't get involved in that part. But whoever wants to build the actual house has to go to the health department with an actual plan that shows the real house, not a typical house or a hypothetical house. And the details that would have to, the ones that are required for drainage, they should follow on to the next plan so that the site's built the way it should be. But the house, the details around the house and the driveway, that stuff can change a little bit. Because it gets more specific to that house.
And I'm not referring to that specifically, it's more like the sightline discussion we're having, not on any drawings that we have right now. But we're accepting to have those drawings updated and submitted to the office post-approval.
So I
Which is
review,
not something we normally try.
so I would review the plans in final form before they get printed on Mylar, and then Jeff signs them and files them, and it gets filed on the land records. So that's what I review, but I don't review the plan for the zoning permit. The zoning officer does that.
Okay, and
And then
I'm
usually,
not trying to talk about that.
and for the engineering, when we went in for a site plan, most of the time, we would submit the site plan and the site plan would be sent to design professionals for review. Because of
Not for a zoning permit.
No, we'll just let him finish.
the zoning permit, yeah, or you send it to NECOG to review, or they don't do it here. They would
No.
just
So from a process point of view, just so that we're clear, if we approve this, I think Delia's point's well taken. Before Mylars are printed, we could have her as staff, because you've been reviewing this for us, look at that to make certain what needs to be on and what is being discussed to be on is actually on the plan before the Mylars are printed. The Mylars get printed. I then have to sign them. Usually I come in with my file as far as what needs to be on, and usually I'm just bringing what I have to make certain that what indeed is supposed to be on, as far as I know, supposed to be on, but you would let me know anyway to say, yes, it looks okay to you. Or Ashley sometimes would say, yes, it's okay. And then I would sign once I feel it looks okay from what I can tell. But I do rely upon staff to make certain that, there's been a look at it. So I think that could be a process that we could go through, understanding that we received this today, that there was no way to get copies out. It's just the way it is.
And
And
there was no way for us to modify the plan.
there wasn't, and trying to see what we can do to deal with that. Otherwise, the default is we just wait till September, and it's not your fault and it's not our fault. I'm not blaming design professionals. It just happened to come in and this was no way to get everything out. And we don't have a ZEO on Thursdays. So there was no way in that office to get anything out and you received it, and there's only so much you can do at the time. So I guess if that process would work for commissioners, depending upon what else we want to discuss tonight, would that work for you, Delia?
Yeah, and the part about reviewing the plans, I've always done that. That's what the town planner does. I'm just not the zoning officer, so I don't do the rest of it.
Yeah, and that would be different. That would have to flow through the land use department as far as how you deal with some of that type of stuff. Would that process work for you?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make certain we're trying to have a process that works and that people are okay with moving forward on. But yes, Joe?
And the process would be trying to identify this letter specifically as the condition of approval with the 5 points that need to be addressed as part of the condition of approval.
Some of those points are now void, so.
Yeah, so comment 1 is void. And comment 2 is because there's already been inland wetlands approval. So she's saying,
Well, then somehow just to reference this date
Yes.
email where appropriate to have Archer Associates update the drawing.
and you've made notes of it as well. And then also the sightline clarification is going to be on there, which isn't on that, but it would be, it looks like you've already drafted that anyway. So that would be on the appropriate sheets to show as well. Yes.
If I could
Oh, sorry, Joe.
recommend-
No, go ahead.
Sorry. If I could recommend, if you approve it, including as a condition that when it's built, that design professionals does an inspection to make sure those drainage features are done to the right size and the pipes, the slopes and all that stuff are done right, because typically your wetlands agent or your zoning officer is not an engineer, so they're not qualified to review that.
And we usually do in certain cases have design professionals go out and check things when they provided input, which is pretty routine for us to do, but that is an important point that we would note, and we would just have to have it noted as part of conditions. So it's clear. Is there something further, Joe? And then,
Yeah, just a quick reminder, this was the plan where I think you located the driveway. They're concerned about that. This was the application. Okay. Thank you.
and also it moved because there were some concerns about sightlines. So by moving it,
And
There's-
no really, the movement wasn't for sightlines, the movement was more trying to make the neighbor content with where it was. It wasn't directly across from his driveway. He was concerned with a little bit of drainage in the water and the headlights and all that, so we were trying to help him as much as we could
Mhm.
possibly help him.
then it also further helped the sightline distance. So from a public safety point of view as well. So that's good. Anything from any other commissioners, or I'm just looking to check? Anything further from you, Delia?
No,
Okay. Anything further from you, Mr. Archer? Okay. So what does the commission wish to do?
Well, I'm ready to make a motion. It doesn't matter, one of us, we're going to make a motion to approve this, but I'd like some help on how to word the conditions.
Why don't we, let's see, we can say approve as presented with one of the, with a condition that the sightline clarification shows on, I believe it has to be shown on sheet, well, you have sheet 3, A, and sheet, no, 3B is, doesn't show that, so we'll do sheet 3 as it would show on the sightline clarification you've already drafted, and with the conditions that, this is design professionals email August 18th at 3:35 p.m. That's the one you have on the screen, Delia.
Okay,
Because there's 2 emails, right?
yes,
Conditions 3, 4, 5, are those the ones that, or is it condition 3 and 5? Are those the 2
Yes.
that need to be addressed
yes,
on that email that I just noted, August 18th, 2022, listed as 3:35 p.m. from design professionals? And there's also the condition that design professionals has to go out to what? Verify, inspect, at what time point, Delia?
the drainage in the driveway upon construction prior to the CO.
So did you get that, Amy? Prior to the certificate of occupancy?
Yes,
Review the site as constructed prior to CO.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
And the ENS.
Yes, and that's the other one. We just need to make certain that the ENS control bond lists that
Correct.
that correction for lot 3B silt fence is coming up to $450.
It'll actually, that'll actually spend, it'll get a little more because they want more silk fence.
So right now, that's the ENS control bond that we're gonna have to,
is there a new amount that they can use in?
Well, I don't know because she wants silk fence along the whole of the slope. It's the first time I've heard it.
right,
So I don't know what is along the whole of the slope and
well, one way to handle it would be, because we have to approve the ENS control bond. Would be, we can approve the ENS control bond as presented with the correction, with the understanding that it looks like there's gonna be more silt fence that might be needed for lot 3B.
Based on what this note-
Right. So if the ENS, if there, so it sounds like it's possible there might be more silt fence. So if there, and we're only talking lot 3B? Is that the one we're talking about, or are we also talking lot 3C for the silt fence?
She
So,
didn't seem to have any concerns with that. Well,
so if there's more silt fence needed based upon following whatever is in design professionals' recommendation, the ENS control bond would go up for lot 3B, plus that 15% contingency. That would have to be calculated, and who would we have verify that? Would that then be, who would sign off on that change? That would we authorize the CEO to do that? To say any increase that is needed in,
when they update the plans, they'll know the length of the fence they're gonna show, and then they'll be able to calculate the amount, and then I could review it. Because it's just a calculation.
it would just be a math calculation.
Right.
and we'll highlight it differently on the ENS. You would know what the additional will be.
So it'd be you as staff, Delia, reviewing that. And then if the math adds up and is correct, that would then be the new ENS control bond. If we're okay with that, because we do have to approve the ENS control bond, which we can just do as part of the condition of approval, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, did that make sense? The motion?
So.
Joe, did you write it all down?
Hold on a second.
I'm waiting for the accurate.
Because we have to add in the ENS control bond.
We have a motion to approve the application as presented with the amendment of the sightline this time on sheet 3 and 3A as described to commissioners, with the conditions of 3 and 5 noted on the design professional's email from 8/18/22 at 3:35 be addressed and updated. The corrections to the ENS bond being made and design professional review the site before CO is issued.
You're good.
And then additionally, we have to add and approve the ENS control bond as presented.
In this motion, or is that a separate motion?
Well, we would have to approve the ENS control bond.
Can't we just add,
We just add that we're approving the ENS control bond as part of the approval.
can't we just add another 200 feet of silt fencing? I think that's a fair number.
I don't know how much there is.
I don't know, I mean,
So I would just say we would have,
What if I say correction to ENS bond be approved? Right, because you have to make the correction and it has to be approved.
right, so what we're trying to say is the ENS control bond, that we have to approve an ENS control bond. Delia?
You could make the motion that the ENS bond estimate be revised to include the additional
Correct.
ENS.
And then the staff is gonna,
fence,
right,
And then I'll review it and
yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say is and that the ENS control bond is revised based upon what is needed
correct.
because of what condition? Well, because of design professionals' recommendations, that Delia review that. And what, you would sign off on it?
Yeah.
And sign off on it if,
the math works out.
So if I say correction to ENS control bond be made and approved by Delia Fay.
We probably should say town planners, just a specific person.
right, town planner.
Don't have two things. The current ENS sounds like there's a correction that's needed regardless of this additional silt fence.
Right, and I think we put that in there already. You had already had that
You
in,
want me to read it again?
right, but I believe that was already in there.
So here we go again. Made a motion to approve application as presented with the amendment of sightline distance on sheet 3 and 3A as described to commissioners, that the conditions 3 and 5 noted on the design professional's email from 8/18/22 at 3:35 PM be addressed and updated. Correction to the ENS control bond be made and approved by the town planner and design professional review the site before CO is issued.
Right, because the other one was correcting this ENS control bond, but that's gonna change anyway. So do we I guess we don't really need it because that little math area, it doesn't matter anymore because the silt fence is gonna go up.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a new number anyway, so we don't have to have it in there. So does that cover everything?
There has to be an approval for the ENS control.
Right, which we're,
Which is in here.
Which is
It
in
says
there.
that it
I'll
be
leave it alone.
yes,
correction to ENS control bond be made and approved by town planner.
which if we approve this motion, we're approving an ENS control bond that's gonna have to be reviewed by Delia as town planner. And if something isn't right, she won't sign off on it, but if it is, she signs off on it and we've authorized her to do it. If that makes sense. As opposed to having to wait another month to get a new ENS control bond in. So. And since you seconded, did you want to say again the motion?
No.
Oh. You would do it just like that. So, okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, then I'll go through the, oh, did you have any questions or anything, Doug, on the motion? I want to make certain I didn't miss you. Okay. So if there's no discussion on the motion, we'll go through the roll, which would be to approve that lengthy motion. So Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Jeff Marcotte.
Aye.
David Morse. Doug Porter
Aye.
and Dwight Reinowitz. I believe that passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You'll end up having to work with Delia and the land use department on whatever stuff needs to be done.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. That takes us then, well, I guess we're looking at the old agenda right now, but that would take us then to We have new business. This has been revised on the new agenda, so I am going to read what it is on the new agenda because it had to be revised. This is 6550922 Woodstock Inn Association Associates, 94 Plain Hill Road. This is a re-subdivision. It's not a 3-lot minor subdivision. So it is I know on the application, the box is checked as re-subdivision and minor, but that's incorrect. It's actually a re-subdivision. So because it's a re-subdivision, we actually have to follow a major subdivision plan, which my understanding, Delia, is the major subdivision plan being followed is the standard one, not the conservation set aside one.
Yes.
Just so that we note it for the record, which major subdivision we're following. Major subdivisions require public hearings. I have a few things I do need to list for the record. I believe the fees have been paid, is my understanding.
I have no idea about the fees.
Yeah, Ashley had told me that they were. My question about it, is this a complete application? The answer has to be no, it is not a complete application. There are still things we're waiting for. I do want to make a general comment, not about this application, but it does behoove applicants to make certain they submit complete applications as best as possible. Our regulations require it because it can delay the work of the commission. Correct me if I'm wrong, Delia, but we do have to get Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency to sign off one way or the other about this.
Right, it's the actual wetlands agency, not their
Correct.
agent.
And that's per state statute. And the other is, don't we also have to get the WPCA to sign off before we can do anything?
Maybe. I don't know if we would say we have to get them to, but the
Well-
applicant will have to get them to do that in order to move forward.
But we would actually
See
need
the
that.
decision.
We would need to see the decision because in our regulations, it does say all applicable agencies,
Mhm.
we do need to see review. So right now, we do not have that. So, and we also don't have the health department. So those are I just want to note for the record, I'm not saying anything about the merits. But sometimes when we get applications submitted and we don't have some of that, we just need to make certain that we're actually able to get that stuff in time to come on in. But those are things as well. And also any easements, we're going to need to see the language of in case the lawyer has to review it. So I just want to note some things for the record, just because we're going to need to make certain we go through that list when we schedule a public hearing. In addition, one of the questions I want to raise is we have, per state statute, within 65 days to schedule a public hearing. Our next meeting is going to be on September 22nd. Inland Wetlands usually meets the first Monday of the month, but they're not going to meet on Labor Day. So I don't know what Monday they're going to meet on. And then I don't know when WPCA meets. But we certainly want to be mindful of stuff we have to get in. So I just want to raise this to see what people think. We either can schedule this public hearing for September 22nd, or the latest we would schedule it would be October 20th. We just need to make certain we have enough time to do our work, because if we schedule the public hearing and we're still waiting, not for inland wetlands, for example, but other things to come in, that the clock starts ticking. And then we don't want to run out of time being able to get stuff and review stuff. So we just got to be mindful on the time. I don't know what you think of that, Julia, from a staff perspective.
I think we should not use up the time that you have allowed for review, waiting for something to come in. Instead, if you delayed opening the hearing, that time doesn't come out of the time that you have to review. That's time allowed for you, probably for situations just like this, but you're not using up your review days of, like, we're wasting your time waiting for something to come in. This other, it's like a separate allotment of time, and it's not gonna chew up anything that is crucial to review.
Right, you're saying, so we don't have a complete application, so we even schedule a public hearing.
Well, we've received it. We have within 65 days to schedule the public hearing.
Even though it's not a complete application?
Well, it's technically been submitted. So what happens is we had to note that it's been submitted.
and the clock starts.
The clock starts now, not for review, but for when we schedule the public hearing. Once we open the public hearing, that clock starts ticking for our review time and then gets into deliberation time. So if we schedule the public hearing for September 22nd, which is our next monthly business meeting, and we're still waiting for, let's say, WPCA, because and we don't have that, or we don't have NDDH, then more time has to go by through our review time that we're allotted, even with extensions. So if we, whatever time we spend between now and the public hearing, that doesn't take away from that review time. It's once the public hearing opens. But we have within 65 days to open the public hearing per state statute.
So are you suggesting we have the public hearing start September 22nd?
No, I'm saying,
Hold off until October?
right,
Okay.
because we don't have multiple items. If you hold off, you're not using up time that you'd otherwise be using to review. This is the time,
Even though the clock is
basically
started.
put it on the shelf and you wait until
Right.
you start the hearing. And that time is allowing them to get their ducks in a row, which normally people have before they come in.
So we have three parts of the timeline. The first part is we receive the application. And I think it's what the earliest day of when the next meeting is,
Or 35 days.
or 35 days. The clock starts from that point to when we have to open a public hearing. That's the first phase. We have up to 65 days to do that. The next part of the timeline is, once the public hearing opens, the clock starts ticking for how much time do we have to keep the public hearing open? The base time is 35 days, with the applicant requesting up to 65 more. Once the public hearing closes, the last part of the timeline is, how much time are we allotted to make our decision? We have up to 65 days to make that decision, plus any additional time the applicant may have to extend. So there's three different parts, but the part that what Delia is referencing is, right now, the public hearing time that we have to review and whatever, that doesn't start until we open the public hearing. So between now and when the public hearing opens, an applicant can get his or her ducks in a row for anything else that needs to be submitted, additional plans that need to be submitted, easement languages that need to be submitted, any other agencies that have to sign off that we need to be submitted, that can come in before the public hearing opens. And then that stuff's we've already received it, and it facilitates the timeline for review by the commission. Delia?
We are also waiting for the wetlands agency to make a decision. And when he was talking about the time for the health department and the WPCA, there's a special allotment in the statute that
Yes.
allows you extra time to get your report from the wetlands agency. You don't have special exceptions or extensions allowed for WPCA and health department and whoever else you might need to hear from. But there is for wetlands, because sometimes wetlands might have their own extensions or whatever. There happens to be a different issue here, but anyway, the wetlands agency hasn't made a decision on it yet. And so you still need that.
But Delia is correct. If we're still waiting during a public hearing for inland wetlands, for example, we actually have extra time just waiting for them, but nobody else.
So the time between now and
October 20th.
October 20th. Where does that get charged? The applicant or the commission?
No, it doesn't come out of any other part.
Doesn't.
Nope.
It just, it's kind of like you just put it on your list and you move on. And then you come back to it when you open your hearing.
So the first part of the timeline is purely the time the commission has to open a public hearing. You have within up to 65 days. The key part is, once we open the public hearing, the amount of time we have to review and get additional things in that are needed, that clock ticks.
Right.
Right. And the other thing I was mentioning is, if we also if there's anything relative to a public improvement bond and we need to see the details of the public improvement, especially if we have to have, say, our engineer review and take a look at, these are all things that could take time during a public hearing to be worked through, that otherwise, if they're done ahead of time, we're not taking that time out of the public hearing review process. Delia, and then
So-
Dean.
I'm recommending that you have the plan sent to design professionals now with the bond estimate so that they can review it and have time to get us back their comments. Of course, our engineer, we should send their comments to WPCA just because I'm not sure if they use a different engineer.
I
But
do
if
not
they
know.
require something and our engineers do something different, we want them to all communicate. So we're not requiring them to do something that's not along the same lines as whatever WPCA's engineer wants.
Dean, did you have something?
So if I'm gathering this correctly, it basically would be in our best interest to table this, so it doesn't interfere with our ability to deliberate it later.
Yes,
We would schedule the opening of the public hearing for October 20th at 7:45 PM.
So if you want a motion, then we make that motion to set the public hearing date for this application.
And you okay with the 7:45 PM time?
No, it's gonna be 7:30.
Okay.
7:45.
Is there a second? So then we're gonna open it up for discussion. So motion by Joe Adaletta, seconded by Dean Gould to schedule a public hearing for this re-subdivision application for October 20th at 7:45 PM. I'll open it up for discussion. Jeff, did you have something?
I was just gonna say, we really didn't need to do anything about it tonight, did we?
Well, we've technically received it, so we're supposed to schedule a public hearing.
yeah. you gotta-
Yes, but we're required to schedule a public hearing. Because we've now received it. So one of the one, I'm not saying anything about this application, but in general, when we get applications that have things that are incomplete and that are needed for us, one of the risks that any applicant takes is we may have to wait a couple of months to start a public hearing. The alternative is we start the public hearing the next month, and if we don't get things within the statutory timeline that a public hearing has to stay open, if we don't get it all, there's a risk we have to deny it because we don't have what we need. So it behooves people to make certain things come in before applications are submitted to us, especially since it's clear in the regulations for special permits, for subdivisions, re-subdivisions, what are the things we need? And if there's other agencies that have to weigh in, so this has been submitted. So Delia's right, we actually have to act upon scheduling a public hearing. Her point's well taken. This just needs to be time to get the stuff in that's needed to make it more complete.
But Jeff makes a good point, at least in my mind, that I was trying to refer to the previous applicant, about having complete applications before we start.
And I've asked, yeah, and so this has come up several times at annual legal training sessions, and Attorney DiCrescenzo has told us this, and Attorney Robbins has told us this, that even though we have a deadline policy, if something is submitted, it's still received and we have to act upon it. So we can't say, no, we won't act upon it. It'd be nice if we could, because then that just tells people you're not submitting something complete. We understand there can be delays with NDDH and we're not faulting people for that, but we do review it to see how complete things are. I mean, but the issue is because we have to accept it, even if it's incomplete, applicants just need to understand that incomplete applications will slow down a review process by us, and we may run out of time, or we just have to say, all right, the public hearing has to be in 2 months to make certain things that are needed to be done are done and submit. So, but we can't say no to receiving because it's been filed. So even though we try to have the deadline policy, we say that's just the way. And I know you have those flow charts, Celia, that show the timeline, and we keep track of the timeline. But again, I agree with the motion that it behooves, I think, everybody to have this public hearing scheduled for in October, because there's clearly other agencies that have to weigh in. And if, say, WPCA wants certain things done that have to be revised on a plan and a public improvement details and a performance bond. If there's easement that we need to see language on, which I believe we would have to see, because if there's any easements proposed or any existing easements, we're supposed to see the language of that, and usually it's reviewed by the town attorney if needed. And if there's, I don't know if there's anything for inland wetlands, but we just need to, an NDDH, we just need to see that stuff and see what's up. So, so it makes sense to me to go with the October 20th. Anything from anybody else on this motion? Doug, I don't want to leave you out if you had your hand raised. Okay. So, because this is going to have to go to a public hearing, we really can't get into any discussion on the details of the plan or the merits of the plan. This is all process. Celia?
Right.
Yes, I'm going to raise that. I'm going to raise that. Yep. So this is to schedule the public hearing. This for this. Delia's other point was about, do we want to send this to design professionals, which I think we have to have a vote, don't we, in order
I don't
to,
think so, because it costs
it's going to
money.
cost money, but that's a separate motion from this. So, so right now, this is to schedule the public hearing. Is there any further discussion from people? I'm going to go through the roll. Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Jeff Marcotte. David Morse. Doug Porter.
Aye.
Dwight Reinowitz.
Aye.
Okay,
I'll second that.
that was Dean seconded. So that then gets to the next part, which is does the commission want to send this to design professionals? I want one question I have, Delia, about that, just 1 minute, is we don't know what WPCA is going to say or
No,
require.
I'm gonna see if I can reach out to them to find out who they use for an engineer,
Okay,
and maybe their engineer, if they have a different one, can talk to our engineer.
and try
If they
to,
have different
okay,
opinions about.
because we don't want to duplicate the work per se and for the applicant. So we want to try to streamline it if we could. Jeff, did you have something? Yes.
I motion that we design professional for their opinion on it. And hopefully they can get together with engineer at the same time.
Delia, you'll look into that as.
Yep.
Okay. So motion by Jeff Marcotte, seconded by David Morse to send to design professionals the plans with the note that Delia is going to be talking with design professionals and I guess finding out from WPCA what engineer they use. Okay. Is there any discussion? I'll go through the roll on this one. Joe Adaletta. Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould. Jeff Marcotte. David Morse. Doug Porter.
Aye.
And last but not least, Dwight Reinowitz. That so is taken. I know, Mr. Parent, you're on the call on by Zoom, so I hope you heard everything.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know we couldn't get into any other discussion on the application because we have to wait for the public hearing.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to make certain that you were hearing us. So with the system we have, so thank you for joining us tonight. So the next item is old business part 2, which is moot because the Rusty Relic item has been tabled. ZEO reports for the office. Right now, Ashley is coming in on Fridays. I don't know for how long that will go on for. I don't quite know how many hours she comes in for. I know she's trying to deal with whatever work is being done as best as possible. I honestly don't know how many other applications she has to sort through that we don't see. I really don't know. That is a matter that town hall has to attend to. She has told me that she's not doing zoning enforcement. So any zoning enforcement items that are pending, that's just, that would be a town hall matter, I guess. Because we ourselves don't do zoning enforcement. And we do have a policy in place from this commission that commissioners don't do, the ZEO work. We're not credentialed. to do that. I don't yet have a status update as far as where things stand with interviewing for a CEO candidate. Yes, Amy?
We covered that in the Board of Selectmen meeting, so I can share that with you. They have had multiple interviews and offered the job to a second person, the first person.
Well, this is the first we're hearing about it. So thank you.
Not like I would say my minutes
Right.
before. So I'm
I
sorry.
had, just so you know, for the record, I had asked the first selectman to include me in, so I knew what was happening. I even offered to be of help in an interview. I wasn't notified about the names of anybody, and I wasn't notified of any interviews, and I was not notified that this was going to come up tonight at the selectmen's meeting.
There was no specifics. They just reviewed the timeline of what they had been doing. So
Right.
when they started interviewing,
Right.
when they posted that.
Right. So I knew nothing of it as chair. I had asked to be included, and so the commission could be included. If I had known this was going to come up at discussion at the town hall, at Board of Selectmen meeting, I actually would have stopped in the meeting. But the only thing I got handed to me was an application for a activity on a scenic road, which technically I'm not the CEO, so I'm going to have to put that upstairs into the office to be processed formally. So you're hearing this the same that we're hearing it. You know, we try to do as best of the communication as we can, but communication's a two-way street. And so if we don't get communicated to and informed what's going on, then there's only so much we can do. Thank you, Amy, for letting us know. One thing I want to caution the commission about is whether they hire someone or not, doesn't mean that that person is the commission agent. This commission has to legally vote to say that that person is our agent. My recommendation to the commission is that I don't think we should blindly take a vote whenever without understanding, meeting this person and understanding what type of credentials this person has and, you know, having had at least some meeting with the candidate. So there is a difference between being hired by town hall and being designated our agent. So I'm not saying we're going to gum up the works, but I, for one, as a commissioner, not as chair, but as a commissioner, I'm not going to vote for somebody who I've never met and don't know credentials on. I hope that we will hear. But Amy, thank you for letting us know. I do appreciate that the selectmen have been working on trying to interview people and hire someone. So I just wish there had been better communication, quite frankly, from the Board of Selectmen. But that's my opinion as a commissioner, not as chair. So, but just so you know, there was efforts made to try to enhance communication. But it is what it is, the world that we live in right now. So otherwise, I have no idea when someone new might start. But I'm happy as chair to meet with that person to go over how we work. And I think that would behoove that person to meet with us to talk with us. And I'm assuming we'll find out what happens in that regard. I also don't know, Delia, how that is going to work with regards to, we'll also have to find out how that person's going to be working with you as town planner, because that's important as well. So, but it is what it is. So as far as permits, was there anything that Ashley sent to me? I asked her to send us if there was any permits. And I don't believe there was anything she sent, so a permit list. I honestly don't know what that list is, but I don't believe there was anything she told me she had to provide us. As far as enforcement, as I mentioned, she told me she's doing no enforcement. I do want to put on the record again, we have a couple of enforcement items that I don't know the status of. One is Supreme Sheds and Barns. I don't know what they're doing or not doing, and what follow-up. There's been no follow-up since Ashley has taken the new job. So I don't know if they're still out of compliance with their permit or if they're in compliance with their permit. Have you heard anything, Delia, about, are they actually submitting something to us?
They contacted me to find out what they needed, which I had already sent to them, and then the property owner asked me what they needed to do, so I sent them the information. And I haven't heard back, so I don't know if they are getting the plans updated or what.
There's a for sale or a realtor sign up there. I don't know what's being sold. The house no longer can be put a house on. That special permit was voided.
Because they didn't want to do it anymore.
They didn't want to do it anymore and it lapsed. So no house can be built there because
Because they didn't file the mileage, right?
they didn't file the Mylars, and when they were followed up upon, they told us they didn't want to do it anymore, and they knew that then we took a vote to void it. So right now, no house can be built on that lot. So I don't know if there's a sale for anything more commercial up there. I honestly don't know.
I don't
So
understand why they would do that. They could have filed the Mylar and then not built the house.
I don't know. I'm just mentioning it because
Now the new
nothing,
buyer can't build the house.
there isn't anything from an enforcement point of view happening right now. So I don't know. I just mentioning it because this is stuff that we otherwise would have the CEO follow up on with Supreme Sheds, and we can't right now. And you don't do that work. You're not the CEO.
I can offer my observation that they are not compliant. Where there are sheds that are built on site and moved off site. Personal observation.
So I guess the issue is, what do we want to do as a commission? Right now, we don't have a CEO to follow up on that. We either wait to get a CEO that we designate as our agent, and that person's going to have to look through the file, and I think we'd have to discuss it at a meeting. Or we either, what's our next step, Delia? We actually have to authorize the lawyer to send a letter? Is that the next step?
Has a notice of violation already been sent?
I don't know.
Normally you start with a notice of violation, you give them so many days to comply. If that's not sufficiently complied with, then you move to the cease and desist, and they have an order to stop what they're doing, and then if they don't comply, then the commission would have to authorize going to the town attorney, because that costs money, and then the town attorney can advise you as to what would be a good idea to move forward. I rarely have ever seen someone taken to court. Sometimes the attorney sends a letter, and sometimes that gets results. But in my years, I haven't seen something go to court.
So right now, I don't know if a notice of violation was sent. I have no idea. I don't go into that office and look through the files. So I honestly don't know. I guess our next step would be, well, one option is we have no zoning enforcement happening. We just wait until we get a CEO and have a CEO look into it. Or the other item would be notify town hall there's a pending zoning enforcement matter that has to be looked into, and I don't know what will happen then, because there's nobody designated to do that.
You could ask Attorney Roberts if maybe he could write a letter or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know what ideas people have.
Probably would need to know what has already been done.
Can that be addressed to the board of selectmen? I thought she had done something.
Yeah, I don't,
What did we do within the June or May meeting? We denied the permit, right?
we denied it, yep, and they were supposed to be notified that they have to abide by the current permit they have. So if they're doing stuff that is not within the permit conditions, they are supposed to stop.
We asked to come back to us with a
Special permit.
Yeah.
And they haven't yet. I don't know if a notice of violation was set. I mean, I'm not designated to go into that office and read through the files. I don't know where that stuff's kept.
I don't know where any of the files are kept anymore.
I know she's not doing zoning enforcement, but.
I can send her an email and ask her if a notice of violation was sent. If a notice of violation was not sent, I don't know if she's going to send it because she says she's not doing zoning enforcement.
I think if it's not been sent, then perhaps what Dilly was suggesting would be asked Attorney Roberts to just send the initial notice. His understanding is that they're not in compliance with it.
Ask about the what?
about the charges.
Well, I'm going to say this on the record, and I may get yelled at. I may get yelled at publicly by some people, but my opinion as a commissioner, not as chair, but as a commissioner, is that if this commission votes that we feel in our statutory authority for what we're supposed to do as independently elected commission in town, and we answer to the people in town for what we're supposed to do, if we feel we need to ask the town attorney a matter that is in the jurisdiction of planning and zoning that we've determined is important to do, then if this commission votes to do that as chair, I will notify the town attorney. I don't think we need to ask permission of anybody else. I think that's within our jurisdiction. And we've stated it on the record at a meeting, why we feel we need to do that type of stuff. So I'm just stating it. So,
I think that's a good suggestion to query Ashley for her next Friday
okay.
time here to just.
Oh, yeah.
And leave.
Now, if she says it was, do we want to wait to find out, which would be our September meeting on the 22nd? Or do we want to say, if she says she sent the notice of violation, do we want to then say, well, if it's not being adhered to, authorize the attorney, or just wait to find out what she says?
Probably wait for.
Okay.
Find out what she says, and then next meeting we could take action on. it.
Okay. Okay.
A different note, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can, I think you mentioned that already. So, right, what we'll do is, this is not a motion, but I will send an email to Ashley. Raise about Supreme Sheds. If notice of violation was sent. And then we'll bring this back. There was also another item that had been brought up at the last meeting about whether or not someone is running a business from a barn or something on their property for weddings. And that had been looked into by Ashley, and it was not clear. And an enforcement letter was sent, but Ashley never heard anything back. But it hasn't been followed up on if the person is actually still doing that business or not. This was brought up last month, but we've not heard anything. But right now, again, Ashley did send a letter and had never heard anything before she was done in July. That's still a pending enforcement matter, but she's not doing enforcement.
In the same email, just ask if she's heard anything.
Okay. Okay, does anyone have anything else on that? Doug?
Observation on that last one.
Yep.
Because that's on my run for the town, so driving by there all the time. I haven't seen any activity of them continuing to do that.
Okay. So they may well have just stopped. But I'll ask her if she received any letter. So on that. So Doug, that's fine with you as far as how we're handling Supreme Sheds? Thank you. So we'll send that then for that. Budget review and bills. We have our budget. I think we continue to be very mindful of the money that we're spending. And again, any issue relative to what legal expenses we have, I don't believe we've done anything wrong or excessive or unnecessary. At any time, there's been nothing shown to me, even though I've asked, that has proven that. But certainly if anybody has any questions about how we feel we interact and work with our town attorney or any other staff, such as design professionals for engineer, is always welcome to come to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and discuss it with commissioners. And we're always happy to do that. And we always review our budget and our bills, despite what some people think we don't, but our minutes very much reflect we do. I have seen no bills that I needed to sign up on. And that have come, to us.
I don't remember the last time Rich was with us.
No, he doesn't come to meetings unless we need him.
It's been a long time.
And we usually don't need to discuss much with him. So whenever we've needed to, it's been legitimate.
Legal training, he doesn't even charge us for that, right?
I don't know how that gets billed. It's part of the contract. I don't know. But we do it, but we haven't really needed him other than one item that you had to ask him for
Right.
inland wetlands. But, we don't need him here at the meetings, but if there's any enough a time that we do, I think as a commission, we are within our statutory authority to do that if we need to. Because if we don't, and turns out we needed to get legal opinion, and something then happens with a lawsuit or an appeal, that's a lot of money in Superior Court for the town. So I think we're actually doing a really good job in what we're doing as far as trying to protect the town from unnecessary expenses like we've heard other towns run into problems with, and then they spend a fortune. But that's what he doesn't routinely come to our meetings unless needed. Delia, I know that you had talked with him about where things stand with the statute about what inland wetlands is supposed to do and not do relative to their decision-making and what their wetlands agent can and cannot do.
Right,
Do you
so
want to speak to that?
when a property is proposed for subdivision, if the property itself has wetlands on it, even if all the proposed development and regulate and earth disturbance and all of those activities are outside of the upland review area, that because the application is for a subdivision, it has to go to the wetlands agency, not to their agent, which has happened a couple times. And the problem with that is that if this commission, which is trying to wait for their decision, you don't need your approval, whatever their decision is, you need the decision before this commission can make a decision. And if you get a decision from their agent, not from the agency, applicant could appeal because you didn't get the right information. And whether or how someone can appeal a wetlands agent as opposed to the wetlands agency is completely different. And if I understood the email from the town attorney correctly, there's a deadline when you can appeal a wetlands decision from the wetlands agency. It's pretty open-ended, it sounds like, if you can appeal a decision from their agent. And it probably has to do with a legal notice. When I was wetlands agent in Killingly, I had to do all legal notices for the agent decisions and wetlands agency decisions. And then there was an appeal period, and so it was all very clear. I don't know that the wetlands agent in Woodstock does legal notices for agent decisions.
The approval from the agency from memo.
Any sort of report would work. It could be the minutes, it could be when the wetlands
Yes.
staff person writes a letter on the decision and sends it to the applicant, and we get a copy, that would be fine.
So usually the way I've done it,
Anything really.
The
So-
staff, did you say the staff person? Isn't that the agent?
No, they would write a letter about what just like I write a letter for your applications that you approve, I write a letter with the details of the decision and I send it to the applicant. Their staff person, which is their wetlands agent, would write a letter reflecting their decision, which is not the person's decision, it's the agency's decision.
and that's how we've handled it.
And then
So,
they give
yep.
you a copy of it, and that's your report of it.
So for example, I look for their minutes.
Yeah.
And if we get their minutes, I've asked Ashley, put it into the packet to show
Yeah.
they've approved it. If their minutes aren't ready for our meeting, she'll write a memo saying, yes, as wetlands agents, I can say that Inland Wetlands Agency approved this on this date.
So what happened a couple
So-
times is there were a couple applications where Ashley as the agent approved it, not the Inland Wetlands and Water Courses Agency.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
So it is, it is, and we're just following that. So, which is another reason why when applications get submitted and they haven't gone to inland wetlands, it can tie us up. So,
It's so important to follow the right process. That quarterly newsletter we get about land use questions that go to court. They can live and die on the smallest detail if somebody challenges that decision.
and this is why sometimes we ask the town attorney to clarify things for us appropriately. So we can make certain and then we did receive one thing of correspondence. I believe this made the meeting packet from a member of the public from Virginia Sears wanted us to see some article about marijuana. So we've received it. So otherwise, there isn't any other correspondence that we have. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? So motion by David Moore, seconded by Dean Gould to adjourn the meeting. Joe Adaletta? Jeff Gordon, aye. Dean Gould, Jeff Marcotte, David Morse, Doug Porter,
Aye.
and Dwight Reinowitz. That so passes. I have 9:30.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Doug. Oh, Doug, did this work did this owl device work for you?
I didn't get the panoramic view that I got the last time it was used. But that's
Okay.
fine. Yep, no problem.
Okay, we'll have to figure out actually how it works then. Okay, we'll try to figure it out, Doug.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
That Thompson on Tuesday night approved the hippie letters from that.
Oh, yeah.
The what permit?
The hippie lettuce. All right. Stuff upstairs, before we do.
The only one that's on Jason's restaurant.
Yep, thanks. Thank you.